James talk, they talk to the BBC.
The news never sleeps, even when you do. A ceasefire is being called. A president is being overthrown. And trials of a new cancer drug show promise. But rest, knowing you can catch up in your own time. The Global News Podcast brings you the stories you need to hear every day. Listen wherever you get your BBC podcasts.
This is BBC News, live from London, with our continuing coverage of the coronation of Their Majesties King Charles and Queen Camilla. Despite the rain, huge crowds came to Buckingham Palace to greet the royal party. A moment in history as the St Edward's crown was placed on the King's head by the Archbishop of Canterbury at Westminster Abbey.
God save the King! God save the King!
Camilla was the first Queen Consort to be crowned since the late Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, in 1937. And a personal moment between King and heir. William wishes his father good luck with a kiss.
I, William, Prince of Wales, pledge my loyalty to you, and faith and truth I will bear unto you, as your liege man of life and limb. So help me God.
After the ceremony, the royal couple headed back to Buckingham Palace as the crowds cheered along the Mall. The weather caused a scaled-down flypast, though the red arrows delighted the crowds. Very good evening. Welcome to Buckingham Palace. After all the pomp and ceremony and the enormous crowds we had here in front of Buckingham Palace today, it is now still very quiet, still a bit wet as well. But there's been no event like this in 7 decades. King Charles III crowned in a ceremony rich with music and symbolism at London's Westminster Abbey. The King took an oath on a Bible promising to do the duties of the monarch. His Queen, Camilla, was also crowned in a service which included representatives from a range of faiths across the UK and the Commonwealth. The coronation was watched by world leaders, including 90 heads of state and celebrities inside the Abbey. Millions also watched around the world. Here is the First Lady Jill Biden from the United States, although of course President Biden did not travel. French President Emmanuel Macron did, alongside the First Lady of Ukraine, Elena Zelenska. Also there in the Abbey, leaders of Commonwealth countries and the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, who gave a reading from the Bible during the service. In the most sacred part of the service, the King was shielded from public view by screens, while choristers sang Handel's Zadok the Priest, performed at every coronation since the early 18th century. Prince William also made a pledge of loyalty to King Charles before members of the congregation were invited to offer their own support. And outside, thousands of people lined the streets to see the King and Queen as they returned to Buckingham Palace in the gold state coach first used in 1831. The flag-waving crowd cheered as the coach, drawn by 8 horses, drove by. They were accompanied by a procession made up of 4,000 military personnel marching in step. And a short while afterwards, the new King and Queen appeared on the balcony of Buckingham Palace with other members of the royal family, although the King's brother, the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, and his son, the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, were not there. The watching royals were treated to a military flypast over the palace, which included the iconic red arrows. Throughout the day, a huge security operation was in place, and several hundred anti-monarchy protesters in Trafalgar Square jeered during the service as it was relayed to crowds, and several demonstrators were arrested. That followed the passing of a new law in Britain this week to toughen the rules on public protests. Our royal correspondent Nicholas Witchell was watching the day's events.